I'm Renee Williams.
And I'm Billy Thomas.
And welcome to another edition of From the Woods Today. We have a really neat show today. Not that they're all neat, right. But kind of when you get an overview of something, it's kind of neat.
It really is. I'm really excited about today's show. We're talking about something that the folks here in forestry and our department and across the state think about all the time, right? Mm-hmm. And that's our oak trees. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of oak trees here in Kentucky.
We do.
Most of our forests are considered oak hickory. And today we're going to have Laurie Thomas on, giving us kind of an overview. I think we're going to be talking about the upland oaks this time, of some of the really kind of cool species that we have. And there's a lot of variety of our different oaks we have out there. So Laurie will be talking about some of these different species that we deal with. And then we'll kind of show you all some additional resources related to oaks and oak management that we have. Some of that's come through the work of the White Oak Initiative, as well as some other work that we've done here. But really excited to have Laurie on today talking about that stuff. And we're glad to have you all with us as well. If you have questions for Laurie or us, please use the chat function. And if you're on YouTube or you're a podcast listener, please use email at forestry.extension@uky.edu, and we can respond to you that way. But again, glad to have you all with us. Glad to be with you, Renee, on this nice warm summer day here in Lexington, Kentucky.
It's been hot for a while,
but it probably will stay hot.
Yeah, next week I think it's supposed to be hotter.
Yes. And I know, and some of our good friends are going to be joining us this Saturday. Yes. We're going to be down in Robinson Forest at the Woodland Owners Short Course, and we've got a big group of landowners coming down there. They're going to get to see some of the great work that goes on at Robinson Forest. We're also going to sneak in a little trip to the fire tower for them too.
Oh, nice.
So, a little bonus for those that are going to be part of it. So there is still some opportunities if y'all are interested. We do have some openings at the Roundstone Native Seed one on August 10th. And so if you're still interested in the Woodland Owner Short Course and you hadn't signed up yet, you can still jump in that one. I think we're pretty full up though for Saturday now. So,
we are,
but we'll be glad to have everybody there. Glad to have you all with us as well. And I guess without any further ado,
well, let's get started. Hey, Laurie, if you want to turn your camera on. Hi, welcome to the show again. We appreciate you being on.
Yeah, it's good to be back. It's been since early May since I think I did a Tree of the Week. So.
You've been camping and stuff with a lot of youth out there.
I know your summer gears up and you just go. So exactly. I can't bug you in the summer.
Absolutely, but it's been great so far, and I was excited to come back and do this segment on some of our common upland oaks here in Kentucky. I think it's always nice to, we do the Tree of the Week, and that's one specific species. We get all of this information, but to talk about them as a whole group, as a genus. And so we're talking about today some of the more common upland oaks that we find here in Kentucky, and in general, talking about them as a group. And specifically, we're going to do a quick review over those species, and then kind of wrap up with some of the resources where you can find out more information about some of those oaks. And then we'll hop back on and I'll share a few places you might want to get out and visit and see some of these trees up close and personal.
Excellent. Awesome. All right. Well, good deal. Well, we're going to get it going. And again, thank you, Laurie, for doing this. And folks, if you have got questions for our presenter, please use the chat function or email. Thank you.
I'm Laurie Thomas with the University of Kentucky Forestry and Natural Resources Extension, and I'm going to talk about some of the common oaks of Kentucky. The oak group is one of the most important groups of trees on the North American continent, possibly even the entire northern hemisphere. The oak genus Quercus is in the Fagaceae or beech family, which is comprised of 6 genera and more than 600 species. The Quercus genus is comprised of roughly 435 species found worldwide, and oaks are found growing on 5 of the 7 continents. North America has the most significant number of oaks with 100+ species, and China is a close second. In the United States, there are 60 to 70 species of oak. There are 20 oak species believed to be native to Kentucky, with 13 species of red oaks and 7 species of white oaks. Kentucky's forests are classified as oak hickory type because approximately 75% of our forests are composed of oaks and hickories. In addition to the diversity and dominance in our forests, they are economically very important and are often a foundational species of many ecosystems. Oak wood is typically heavy and strong and one of the most popular hardwoods used in the United States. Both red and white oaks are used for flooring, cabinetry, furniture, bourbon barrels, lumber, and other wood products. Many of our oak species are some of the most harvested and valuable trees in Kentucky. 3 oak species were among the top 10 species harvested in Kentucky. They included white oak, chestnut oak, and black oak, based on recent United States Forest Service forest inventory analysis. These oaks play a significant role in Kentucky's forest industry's economic contribution to the state. In 2022 to 23, oak trees continue to supply over half the wood exported from the state, with more than $253 million in exports of barrels and lumber. Oaks are not only important economically, they are also critically important to their native ecosystems. A keystone species, they support more life forms than any other North American tree genus. They support fungi, insects, birds, and mammals. According to the National Wildlife Federation and the Audubon Society, oak is one of the top 10 trees for wildlife. It is estimated that oaks host more than 530 species of caterpillar that provide critical nutrition for breeding bird success. The acorns provide food for more than 100 different U.S. vertebrate species, including blue jays, quail, wild turkey, wood ducks, squirrels, rabbits, raccoon, and deer, and are considered one of the most valuable food resources available for wildlife. Additionally, large oak trees provide critical habitat for warblers, including the threatened Silurian warbler, cavity nesting birds, black bear dens, and roosting sites for forest-dwelling bats. Oak trees provide other important benefits as well. Many can live up to several hundred years, which helps stabilize a forest community and helps sequester carbon. Their roots hold the soil in place, which can protect water quality, and their leaf litter can help improve soil fertility. The Quercus genus is generally divided into white oaks and red oaks based on similarities in botanical features as well as wood anatomy. White oaks generally have leaves without bristle-tipped lobes or leaf tips, and the leaves generally contain more soil-enriching nutrients when they fall than those of red oaks. White oak acorns mature in one growing season and are typically sweet. The summer wood vessels are angled, small, and thin-walled and contain tyloses. Red oaks mostly have leaves with bristle-tipped lobes and leaf tips. The acorns mature in 2 growing seasons, and they are usually somewhat bitter. And gray squirrels preferentially cache red oak acorns to eat later because they are less likely than white oak acorns to go bad before the squirrels can get back to them. Red oak summerwood vessels are rounded, large, and thick-walled and do not contain tyloses. The presence of tyloses in the vessels of the white oak wood makes it desirable for tight cooperage or barrels used to store and transport liquids such as bourbon. Because the wood is liquid tight, it will not leak. As part of the White Oak Initiative, a series of publications called Landowners for Oaks was created to provide landowners helpful botanical and useful identification information for common upland oaks. The series includes the main upland oak species found in this region: white oak, Quercus alba, chinkapin oak, Quercus muhlenbergii, chestnut oak, Quercus montana, post oak, Quercus stellata, northern red oak, Quercus rubra, black oak, Quercus velutina, scarlet oak, Quercus coccinea, and southern red oak, Quercus falcata. Now let's briefly review each of these species. White oak, Quercus alba, is an outstanding tree among all trees. It's the most important lumber tree of the white oak group. It is a large tree, typically growing 80 to 100 feet tall, and on really good sites it may grow over 100 feet tall with a diameter greater than 5 feet. White oak is slow-growing and long-lived, living up to 400 to 500 years. White oak is generally classed as intermediate in shade tolerance. It is most tolerant in youth and becomes less tolerant as the tree becomes larger. The leaves typically have 7 to 10 rounded lobes with smooth surfaces. The acorn is usually a ½ inch to 3/4 inches long, oblong in shape, with a warty bowl-shaped cap. And the bark is ashy gray and broken into scaly blocks when young and irregularly plated and deeply fissured as the tree matures. Chinkapin oak, Quercus muhlenbergii, is a member of the white oak group. It is sometimes called yellow chestnut oak, rock oak, or yellow oak. It is a medium tree that typically grows 40 to 60 feet tall with diameters between 24 and 36 inches. On exceptional sites, it can grow up to 90 to 120 feet tall, especially in the Ohio Valley. It is considered shade intolerant, even though young seedlings appear to start out as exhibiting some shade tolerance. The leaves have scallop to tooth margins, and each tooth has a gland or a callus at the tip. The acorn is a ½ inch to 1 inch long, and the cap covers a third of the acorn. And the cap tends to have a tattered fringe, and the acorn ripens to dark brown, and it is a favorite of wildlife. The bark is light gray and relatively thin with rough and flaky texture. Chestnut oak, Quercus montana, also known as rock chestnut oak, rock oak, or tanbark oak. It is a member of the white oak group, but its leaves resemble American chestnut leaves, hence its common name. The chestnut oak is a medium-sized tree that typically grows 50 to 80 feet tall and up to 2 feet in diameter. Chestnut oak is usually found on dry uplands and ridge tops. It is intermediate in shade tolerance and relatively slow growing. The leaves have scalloped margins and the surface is shiny above and pale below. The acorns are egg-shaped and they're 1 to 1½ inches long, and the cap is thin and warty. The bark is smooth and gray on young trees but darkens and becomes deeply furrowed in older trees, as you can see in the photo. Post oak, Quercus stellata, is sometimes called iron oak, and its common name comes from early settlers using its wood for fence posts because the wood was so durable. Post oak is recognized in the white oak group. It is a medium-sized tree of 40 to 50 feet in height and 12 to 24 inches in diameter. It typically grows on dry sites, rocky outcrops, ridge tops, and upper slopes. It is tremendously drought-resistant and relatively slow growing. Post oak is classified as shade intolerant. The leaves usually have 3 to 5 lobes, and they're cross-like in shape and fuzzy on the underside. The acorns are a ½ inch to 2/3 inches long, egg-shaped, with a warty, scaly cap that covers 1/3 to 1/2 of the acorn. And the bark looks very similar to white oak bark. Northern red oak, Quercus rubra, is widespread and one of the most important and valuable oaks of the red oak group. Often considered one of the highest quality tree species in our upland forests. It is a medium-sized to large tree that typically grows 60 to 90 feet tall and 2 to 3 feet in diameter. Compared to other upland oak species, it is considered fast-growing, and it is classified as intermediate in shade tolerance. The leaves typically have 7 to 11 bristle-tipped lobes, and the sinuses or the indentations extend halfway to the midrib. The acorn is 3/4 to 1 inch long, and the cap resembles a little beret, and only about a fourth or less of the acorn is covered by the cap. The bark is brownish gray with wide flat ridges that create vertical light stripes. Black oak, Quercus velutina, is a common tree of the red oak group. It is sometimes called yellow oak, dyer's oak, or yellow bark oak due to its orange-yellow inner bark. Black oak is a medium to large size tree that typically grows 60 to 80 feet tall with a 2 to 3 foot diameter. However, on good forest sites, it may grow more than 120 feet tall and 4 feet in diameter. Trees can live 150 to 200 years. The leaves typically have 5 to 7 bristle-tipped lobes. The surface is usually shiny above and fuzzy below, and the leaf shape is highly variable. The acorn is egg-shaped and about a ½ inch to 3/4 inches long. It's slightly fuzzy, and the cap covers 1/3 to 1/2 of the acorn. The bark is somewhat smooth and gray when young, becoming deeply furrowed as it ages. The inner bark is yellowish-orange. Scarlet oak, Quercus coccinea, is one of Kentucky's many red oaks and is part of the red oak group. It is also called black oak, red oak, or Spanish oak. It is a medium-sized tree that typically grows to about 80 feet tall and 2 to 3 feet in diameter. It generally has poor form with an irregular crown, and many dead branches throughout the crown are common. The lower trunk often exhibits butt swell due to the chestnut blight and can be a good identifying characteristic in the woods. It is shade intolerant and has rapid growth rate. Trees can live to be about 400 years old. Scarlet oak is named for its brilliant fall color, and the acorns are eaten by a variety of wildlife. The leaves usually have 5 to 9 bristle-tipped lobes, and they have very deep sinuses almost all the way to the midrib. The acorn is 1/2 to 1 inch long, and the cap covers about a half of the acorn, and the tips have concentric circles, as you can see in the photo, or concentric rings. The bark is grayish-brown and smooth when young, darkening and breaking into irregular ridges as it ages. Southern red oak, Quercus falcata, is also called Spanish oak, turkeyfoot oak, water oak, or red oak. Southern red oak is a medium to large-sized tree that grows 70 to 80 feet tall and up to 24 to 36 inches in diameter. It typically has a long, straight trunk and a rounded crown. It is relatively fast-growing and hardy, and it can live up to 150 years. The leaves typically have 3 to 7 bristle-tipped lobes, with the top lobe being much longer than the others so that the leaf actually resembles a turkey's foot. The surface tends to be shiny above and fuzzy below. The acorn is small, a half an inch or less in length, and it's orangish brown in color and slightly fuzzy, and the cap covers about a third of the acorn. The bark has rough, broad ridges separated by narrow furrows, and the inner bark is slightly yellow. Oak fun facts. A mature white oak can produce up to 3 million acorns over its lifetime, and acorns are loaded with protein, fats, and carbohydrates that make them a superfood for many wildlife. Acorns have also been an important source of food for humans throughout history. Going back more than 600,000 years to the mid-Pleistocene, there is evidence of our hominin ancestors dining on acorns. A single blue jay can spread and bury up to 5,000 acorns a season at a depth just right for germination. White oak and its relative in Europe, the English oak, were famous for their use in shipbuilding. They have close-grained wood, rich with tannins, and cells filled with natural plastic-like structures called tyloses. Growing in the forest, these characteristics give them resistance to water loss and decay, and helps them retain nutrients and stay healthy during drought. For boat and shipbuilders, it means this wood is a perfect choice for watercraft. A 3,000-year-old dugout canoe discovered in 2022 at the bottom of a lake in Wisconsin was carved from a single piece of white oak wood that was 14.5 feet long. The USS Constitution, Old Ironsides, the hero of the U.S. fleet during the War of 1812, was crafted from old-growth white oak. There are 6 states and the District of Columbia that have an oak as its state tree. They are Connecticut, Georgia, Illinois, Iowa, Maryland, and New Jersey. The scientific genus name for the oaks, Quercus, is from Latin and is the common name for the oak. To learn more about the oaks in Kentucky, or maybe oaks in your woodland, a local park, or even your yard, check out some of these resources. Common Trees of Kentucky, which is on our UK Department of Forestry and Natural Resources website, contains over 80 different videos of individual trees that you would find in Kentucky. There's the USDA Field Guide to Native Oak Species. It's a wonderful, easily downloadable PDF field guide. Then there's the Virginia Tech Dendrology Fact Sheets, just a wealth of information there. Also at the Virginia Tech Dendrology site, you can use it to help you key out a tree if you're curious about what it is. And then there's the Landowners for Oak series that we discussed earlier on. And here are all of the different fact sheets on each of those upland oak species that I presented earlier. And then also check out the UK Horticulture Native Tree Series, and they have about 70 different fact sheets on native tree species that you would find in Kentucky, including all of the oaks. And lastly, something for a great read, The Nature of Oaks by Doug Tallamy.
That was awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. The overview of oaks, it was really interesting to try to figure out, kind of which one is, and I was like, oh, I recognize that oak. A couple of them were on or one of them was on campus, I think. So it's
actually, there's a couple of those that were from campus, but the chestnut oak is the one out in front of our building. So I mean, it's just amazing. I mean, we have 20 different native oaks, and I only covered just a teeny bit, so and we'll do more in our groups, but kind of wanted just to start with some of our common upland oaks, and ones that, to be honest, can be we think of them in an economic sense in addition to their importance ecologically as well. But so it's a fascinating group. There's so much more you could talk about. I mean, obviously there are entire books just about the oak genus. So there's
pretty
a lot.
important. Yeah.
Yes, very important. As you said, I mean, Kentucky, we are an oak hickory forest. 75% of our forests are covered with oaks and hickories. So pretty important species here in our ecosystem. So
yeah, no doubt. Really, really good stuff there, Laurie. Appreciate
and
that.
I did want to mention, so we talked about, and I know we're going to talk a little bit more about some additional resources, but we kind of went over that review. And if you're really want to go out and see some of these oaks, there's some nice arboretums and collections around the state, depending on where you live, that if you'd like to go visit some of those, and I'll just mention three that I know have collections, but if you, the UK Arboretum here in Fayette County in Lexington, they have a walk across Kentucky, which is it's a wonderful 2-mile walk. It takes you through each one of our ecoregions that we have in Kentucky, and you're going to find different oaks in each one of those ecoregions. And they also have a really nice brochure that you can download from their website to take with you to go out and know where, okay, I'm in this ecosystem. These are the oaks I'm going to see here. And are they white oaks or are they red oaks in that group? So check that one out. It's paved. It's a lovely little walk out at the Arboretum. The other one I'd mention is at Bernheim, which is our Bernheim Forest and Arboretum. They have an oak collection that was started. In addition to their forest, they have obviously native oaks out in their forest, but they also have an oak collection that was started in 1950. So they did their first plantings of oaks out there. They did a big celebration in 2019 for them, but you can go out. Some of them you can catch on a driving tour, and then some of them will be located within a collection close together, so you can kind of walk from oak to oak, comparing, how does this leaf look different? How does that bark look different and whatnot? And Bernheim's great to go visit, all the artwork that's out there as well too, and also easily accessible. And then the last one is a newer arboretum, is that Boone County. It's not new really, but Boone County Arboretum, and they have an oak collection as well up there. They have a lot of their information online as well. You can check it out before you go, look at what oaks they have, and actually go see those in person. So you kind of learn a little bit about them. And now let's go look at the leaves, So, and I also like to always plug that if you have kids or you have grandchildren, I mean, we're a little beyond a lot of state county fairs, but arboretums can be a good place to go help you with a leaf collection, at least identifying, making sure you've got the right leaf. You'd always want to check about collection of from an arboretum, but they can be good if you think you've got something similar. You can go get that comparison for that as well. But a good place to take family members to learn more about some of the oaks in Kentucky.
Nice.
Which is cool. Yeah. And the more the family knows, the more they may care about them, and the may they more want to manage and care for them. Right. So,
and you may decide, hey, I might want to plant an oak in my yard. Which one is the best one to plant? So you can learn at the Arboretum, or you can check out some of the resources that we shared with you. And I think you're going to talk about a few more as well.
yeah, we were going to try to point out a few of those resources, and we wanted to kind of show them a little bit, Laurie, some of the sites that we had mentioned there, just to help them kind of navigate it a little bit. Let's see, there's a couple here. Let's see, we want to start. Oh, sorry. Gosh, the meeting controls are blocking me right now. Daggone it. I'm struggling here, folks. Sorry about that. Yeah, this is the one I wanted to show first. So this was the Common Trees website, and we'll go ahead and put that in the chat as well for everyone, so you all can quickly access it.
And that's when you've seen the Tree of the Week videos that we do, periodically, this is where they've been housed. So what are we up? Are we up to 80 yet, Renee? Is it close?
Yeah, yeah, I believe so.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I thought. So obviously lots more than just the oaks there, but all of the oaks that we reviewed today are listed on there. So, and that's a full, you got a full 7 to 8 minute video with all of the identification information. And in addition to that, some more specific fun facts to, which I always love the fun facts specific to that species. I always think they kind of help you remember them.
Certainly,
Right.
they do.
Right.
Yeah,
It really does.
it's a great resource, Laurie. It really is that we've got here. So, folks, check this out. Take advantage of this. You can learn a lot about each of these. And then the other one we wanted to point out, and we'll drop this one into the chat as well in just a second, are these different white oak publications that we come up. And this was the series that Laurie had mentioned, the Landowner for Oaks series. And that's got some information for landowners that, have oaks on their property or are interested in managing for oaks. But we also have individual publications for each of those different species that she was talking about, the upland oaks over here on this side. And then over here on the far right, we've got some of the more common practices that we do to try to manage for these upland oaks. So this is just a great kind of repository of really a lot of oak related information for whether you're a landowner or a forester or somebody who just cares about oak trees in Kentucky. You're going to be able to get a lot of great content from this. So I encourage y'all to check that out. We'll go ahead and stop that share now, and I can drop that in the chat for everybody, that link. But it's just nice to have some of these resources, I think, available that are all together where you can really kind of get some of those side-by-side comparisons. And Laurie, the nice thing that you did with, these Upland Oak series really makes it easier on people to kind of distinguish one from another.
Another thing, some people might just pick up an acorn, and plant that. Will it grow?
Maybe.
Well, it depends, all acorns, some of them need different treatments. You'll need to, you want to, before you plant it, you want to know what you've got. So try to identify what tree it came from and what the acorn is. And I do a little bit of research before you just actually popped that in the ground, because different species need different, some might need a little bit of special treatment or whatnot. And if you want to be successful, you want to make sure you research it. But if you do, I'd say if you really want to plant an oak on your property, I would probably look to getting a seedling or something from maybe our Kentucky Division of Forestry. They do sell bundles of many of our different oaks that we find here in Kentucky. And that way you've got a well-established seedling with a root system, and you feel much more confident about the success of your of that oak growing on your property. But again, you want to make sure right tree, right place too. So know what species you're planting. That's why you don't want to just pop an acorn, maybe.
If you don't know what that acorn is from.
Because it may be too big or something. So yeah, always check out before you plant.
Yeah, it's good advice for that for sure. So appreciate that.
Oaks have varying levels of height, right? In the whole.
They do. I mean, they're all large trees, largely,
Right.
right? Some could be a little larger than others, but they're not. It's not a tree you want to plant 5 feet from your house, right? Or 10 feet or 20, probably, to be honest, because they're going to get big and they will be all up over your house if you plant it right beside it, and then you'll be like, wow. Yeah, I got to cut this tree down now.
Right. And you got to be careful, because it's like, what if I was like, well, I'll plant it far away from my house, but is that encroaching somebody else's house? So you have to look all the way around.
And they'll have a tendency to have large crowns too when they're open grown like that. So that is a big consideration. They've got a big footprint. So, you need a big space to house an oak. So think about that. So don't just stick an acorn by your house. You're going to have problems down the road.
Right.
Well, you might have squirrels doing that for you anyway.
I was going to say, a lot of those acorns too that you might see, they may have already had like weevils or other insects in them, and they may not be viable even. So, you might stick them in the ground and not. So I like your suggestion, Laurie, of getting something something's well established, something that's kind of been vetted, if you will, by the Kentucky Division of Forestry. That
you'll have more success.
And
I know, I don't know, a couple of months ago, I texted Lori and I was like, is this a red oak growing in the middle of my yard? I didn't plant that there, so I'm sure a squirrel probably did, and I've let it go, but I'm like, no, I probably need to pull it up. Yeah.
Well, because a great thing that oaks can do, once you if you just knock that top off of it, that root system's still alive, right? And guess what happens next year? You get a bigger sprout. And again and again. So yeah, really cool. Great stuff, Laurie. As always, appreciate all you do. I think we're going to actually show an additional one of your I think we're going to do what bur oak this time.
Yes, you're right. And bur oak's not one we covered. Bur oak, and we'll talk in the video about it, but we think of it more as our bluegrass species, and we don't find it all across the state. So but it's a majestic one. When you get into the rolling bluegrass, inner bluegrass, you'll see this is some of the big trees you see out on those farms and whatnot, and that's the bur oak.
All right. Good then. I'll let you go.
Okay.
I'm Laurie Thomas with the University of Kentucky Forestry and Natural Resources Extension, and I'm here with the tree of the week, the bur oak. Bur oak, Quercus macrocarpa, is a widespread oak that is a member of the white oak group. It is also known as blue oak, mossy cup oak, mossy overcup oak, and scrub oak. Bur oak is one of the most cold-tolerant of the North American oak species. This stately tree is considered a medium-sized to large tree that typically grows 70 to 90 feet tall, but is often found as tall as 100 feet and 3 to 4 feet in diameter with a large spreading crown. It is a relatively slow-growing but long-lived tree that commonly lives 200 to 300 years, if not longer. It is considered intermediate in shade tolerance. Bur oak is commonly used in shelter belt plantings and as a shade tree in large landscapes, as it is considered tolerant of urban pollution. Bur oak has one of the largest natural ranges of oaks in North America and ranges the farthest north. It's found growing in a wide variety of sites, including dry uplands, sandy plains, prairie grasslands, and fertile limestone soils and moist bottomlands. It typically grows in a mixture with other hardwoods, and in the west it's a pioneer tree in prairie grasslands. However, bur oak savannas have declined due to grazing and fire suppression. In Kentucky, bur oak grows in most parts of the state except the east and is a common sight in the bluegrass region in pastures. Bur oak is very resistant to drought due to its early taproot development and extensive root system. Bur oak is deciduous with alternately arranged leaves. The leaves are simple in form, meaning they're made up of one blade and usually between 6 to 12 inches long. The leaves are somewhat obovate and kind of fiddle-shaped with the leaf tapering to a wedge at the base. The leaves have numerous lobes, a few with sinuses, those are the indentations, that reach almost to the midrib of the leaf. Many times the lobes near the tip of the leaf resemble a crown. They are green above and pale and fuzzy below. And fall color is typically dull yellow to brown. Bur oak is monoecious, meaning a tree will have both male and female flowers. The male flowers are yellow-green and in drooping catkins that are usually about 2 to 4 inches long. The female flowers are greenish with a red tint and appear in a single short spikes. Both flowers emerge after the leaves in the spring, and they are wind-pollinated. The fruit of bur oak is an acorn. In fact, bur oak has the largest acorns of any native oak. The acorns are 3/4 to 1.5 inches, with at least half of the acorn enclosed in a warty cap that is conspicuously fringed. The acorns ripen in one growing season and mature in later summer into the fall. Seeds are dispersed by gravity, wildlife squirrels, and to a limited extent by water, and wet acorns that are not eaten by a variety of wildlife will germinate soon after dropping. Bur oak begins seed production around 35 years of age and can continue to produce acorns several hundred years. However, optimal seed production is between 75 to 150 years. Trees produce good seed crops every 2 to 3 years. Bur oak, like most oaks, is an important wildlife tree. The acorns are consumed by birds and mammals, including squirrels, rabbits, ground squirrels, mice, deer, and possibly wood duck and blue jays. The foliage is eaten by deer and cattle, and red-tailed hawks, screech owls, fox squirrels, and flying squirrels nest in the large canopies. The bark of bur oak is very thick. It's ashy gray to brown in color and quite scaly, but has noticeable vertical ridges on large trees. The branches often have corky ridges all the way out to the end of the branch. Bur oak wood is light to medium brown in color, though there can be a fair amount of variation in color. It has medium to large pores and a fairly coarse grain. It's ring porous with an abundance of tyloses, which are balloon-like outgrowths of parenchyma cells which block water movement in the vessels. The presence of tyloses in white oaks makes their wood watertight, which is why it's preferred in casks and shipbuilding to red oak, and the growth rings are distinct. Bur oak has been rated as having very good resistance to decay. Bur oak falls into the white oak group and shares many of the same traits as white oak Quercus alba. The wood is used for cabinetry, furniture, interior trim, flooring, boat building, barrels, and veneer. The trees are also used in shelter belt plantings in the Midwest, and it's used in large urban landscapes as a shade tree due to its tolerance to pollution. There are two national champions. One is in Mason, West Virginia. It's 278 inches in circumference, 108 feet tall, with a 112-foot crown spread. The co-champion is in Boone, Missouri, and it's 295 inches in circumference, 74 feet tall, with a 129-foot crown spread. The Kentucky champion is in Woodford County. It is 304 inches in circumference, 92 feet tall, with a 101-foot crown spread. A local arborist estimated the tree to be between 400 and 500 years old. If you'd like to know more about champion trees, check out American Forest National Register of Champion Trees, or check out the Kentucky Champion Tree with the Kentucky Division of Forestry. Now for a few fun facts about bur oak. Bur oak is named for the characteristic fringed acorn cap because it resembles the burr of a chestnut tree. The massive root system of the bur oak is said to be a mirror reflection of the trunk and branch system above ground. The bur oak is the official tree of Lexington, Kentucky. It's also the state tree of Iowa. The large sweet acorns have long been eaten by humans. The scientific genus name Quercus is Latin for oak, and the species name Macrocarpa is from the Greek makros, which means large, and karpos, which means fruit, referring to the large acorns. Thank you for joining me to learn about the bur oak. I hope you get the opportunity to get out into your woodland, a local park, or your neighborhood and enjoy this outstanding and beautiful bur oak.
Yes, is that right?
I was going, I can't hear you.
Thank you, Jeanette.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you, Jeanette.
You know, we have them every now and
Life
then.
happens,
This is
right.
a good blooper reel. We might have to do that. No, so what we were saying, 5 minutes ago, but
you couldn't hear.
You couldn't hear.
Oh, it was great, dude, Laurie. I mean, Renee was pontificating. It was really good.
All right, so back to okay. So anyway, so what we were talking about was that, a lot of the oaks, if you plant one, it will outlive you.
Oh, yeah.
By a lot. So we were like talking, like some of them are 300 years old,
Yeah.
that's like,
They'll outlive your grandchildren.
Exactly. So if you plant an oak, like you said, make sure you know where you're going to plant it and what you're going to plant, because it's going to outlive you and outlive your space.
Right. And that brings up a good point. That is one of the challenges we have in forest management. The time spans of these trees is so different than the human time span. So, we have to, as foresters, we try to basically pass on a better forest to the next generation than what we started with, right? But we don't get to see it to the end. It just keeps going and going. So, but it takes a commitment of landowners and natural resource professionals to really care for these trees for the long haul, because we all benefit when we care for these trees. They're majestic. They really are amazing.
Yeah, they definitely are. And some of those that I'm seeing on your pictures, I'm like, whoa, that is huge.
Impressive.
And I was going to say a few of those are from around Lexington. So, and some of them aren't, obviously, but I know we've got the McConnell Springs bur oak is in there.
I was wondering if that was the McConnell Springs one. It looked like it.
Yeah. So we've got a few really large ones just around Lexington, and I know every community in the bluegrass area does. So you get out and check out some of them out. They're pretty amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Especially, how big they get.
I was going to say, and if you get a chance to get out with your forester or other natural resource professional when you're out there in the woods with them, ask them about them. They're pretty knowledgeable about almost all the species out there, so you can learn that.
Yeah, it's not just oaks. Like every species out there has some kind of story behind them. So maybe that's what we should do, the story of trees.
Yes, good stuff. Well, Laurie, we really appreciate all you do for here, the program, and these presentations from the woods today are great, really.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Awesome.
All right.
Good deal.
Good deal.
All right.
Trees, and more trees.
I know oaks. We're all oaks all the time today, at least.
Yes, today at least.
But we love all trees, as long as they're in their appropriate spot.
Right. Exactly.
Like tree heaven can stay in Asia, right?
Exactly.
We don't need it here.
Yeah, let's get rid of that.
But no, we really appreciate Laurie putting those together. Thank you all for being with us. It's always great to kind of cover something I think that is so universal here in the state, right? And I mean, oaks are universal in Kentucky. Right. They really are. They're everywhere and they're really important. And I think the more we understand them, the more we can kind of appreciate them and maybe care for them going forward. Definitely.
Yeah. And we can't do the show without you. So we greatly appreciate you joining us each and every week. And sometimes we do, like we've had some topics that we have run because of a show suggestion. I actually think oaks might have been one of them at one time. So if you have a show idea, let us know about it.
Sure. Yep. Hit us up fromthewoods.today.com. We've got a little survey link there. You can fill it. If you see something in your woods, you can also take a picture of it and upload it there, and we can maybe help you identify what you got going on or let you know if you got an issue or whatever.
I know we've said this before, but some guy took a picture, a guy we know took a picture, and he was like, this looks just like a pile of rocks, but I didn't put
What's going on here?
What's going on here? So we found, Gwen Henderson, who could do just a story on what's a pile of rocks, and it's really interesting because what we might think is really nothing, it's just a pile of rocks, turned out to be something else.
There's a story behind it.
So you never know what your story is, and we would love to tell that story. So if you want, send us a picture and we will see if there's something behind it.
No doubt. All right. Well, folks, we appreciate you all being with us each and every week, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week.
All right. Take care. Bye.
From the woods today.